This is Dave from ERC, and today we're going to make the Founders FT Legacy RC plane look like this with the tail section now added, and I've also added a tray in here for the electronics. So let's get to it. So I've decided to cut a little piece of wood for a platform. Now this piece of wood is 2 1/4 by 6 inches, and it's 1/8 inch plywood. And I'm going to mount the Matek flight controller on that right about here. And now I'll show you where it's going to position in the aircraft. So what I'm going to do is take the platform, sort of a tray for the Matek flight controller, and I want to mount it like right in here. So the front edge of my 6-inch tray should be even with the foam on the top right here. So this edge is even with that edge, and then it goes back 6 inches here. So I'm going to put a mark right back here, right about in there. So I'm going to draw a line and cut a slot all the way to the front right here. Okay, so what I did was I laid the ruler right up against the top edge here, and then cut a line just deep enough to go through the top layer of cardboard and cut some of the foam, but I didn't go through the bottom layer. Obviously don't want to do that. Next, put a piece of wood that I'm going to use, the tray that I'm going to use, put that at the top, put the ruler against it, and then score another line right here parallel to the other one, and that gives me just the right width for the tray to fit into, and it goes all the way to the edge. And now I'm just going back in there and just peeling the foam up out of that slot like that. So you can see it's just one layer deep, and this is actually 2 layers because you can remember we have this doubler right here on the front side. So I'm only going through the top edge of the doubler, not through both layers. Okay, so for the other side, I've got it flipped around here. I'm just going to lay the ruler along this edge right here of the doubler, and then cut my line here, then put the wood in place along the edge of the doubler and give my spacing, and cut another line, same as I did on the other side. So let's go to the time-lapse video. Okay, so that looks really good so far. I think we're in the groove. So let's just give it a little test fit and see how it works. And we'll just see if we can slide the piece of wood in. So that's basically how it'll go, back in there like that. And I figured out I'll be able to access the flight controller from the top right here when we cut this hole out. And that'll be under the wing, so I'll be able to get to all the electronics. But if I need to make a major change, some soldering or something, I can pull this out to get to everything. Now that we got our flight controller slot right here for the tray on both sides, I'm going to go ahead and glue the side up against the doubler. Put some glue in here, some glue on the doubler, and a little bit right in here, and we'll close it up. So I went ahead and glued this flap down onto the tail. I had to do some readjusting. Actually, I had to cut along here and re-level this, and then cut the hole out. And I put some packing tape across here just to reinforce it, but I think it's all pretty squared right now. And now I can show you how this piece of wood will slide in. So right here for the tray, and the Matek flight controller should be able to mount right about in that area, like that. So when you take the wing off, everything will be accessible. And I'll probably have my receiver mounted back on here on the tray and have the wiring come out to go to the wing. Okay, let's get ready to do our tail section. And we need these two pieces of foam board. The first one has the horizontal stabilizer with elevator right here, and also the spar right here for the elevator. And then the second piece has the vertical stabilizer right here. I'm just going to go ahead and take that out since it's loose. You'll also need this little wood doubler too. So first thing I'm going to do is cut the double bevel on this part right here and make it so this will move or bend around to create the airfoil. Now if it doesn't bend quite enough over, you can go ahead and just take something round and just squish it down a little bit, make it a little bit easier to bend, and then try it again. It should go all the way down without breaking the seam. So that looks pretty good. Next we're going to glue in the spar and go ahead and put some glue down in here on top and so forth. Notice I'm right at the edge of the table with this and kind of letting the trailing edge of the elevator hang over the edge, just to make sure this middle part is nice and flat. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and trim the edge of the elevator here. Just flip it around so it was like this, flip it up, and then trim down this side. Alright, let's go ahead and trim the edge of the rudder side too while we're at it, and then we'll put glue on the seams on both of them, both the elevator and the rudder. Okay, now I'm going to leave those open a little bit and just let them dry so that they don't stick together. I don't want to lift this up, for example, and have it stick closed. Okay, so we want to make sure we get this little doubler onto the elevator surface right here to keep this arch from breaking right here. Gives it extra support. Now you could use a barbecue skewer, that was suggested. But the important thing is to make sure this little slot right here gets over the top. See that groove right there? That's where the horns are going to go. So this is going to go right over that. So the horn will go through this slot and into that groove in the foam. And we also don't want to put it so far back that the elevator won't move. So we want to have it right up here next to that white edge right there. So make sure you can still lift it up. So we're just going to put some glue on it and glue it in. Okay, we're going to go ahead and assemble the tail section and put it on the plane. Alright, we'll fold that back. Put this on here. I decided to hang it over the edge just a little bit to get a little more level, and I want to make sure that it's square and everything. So let's just check the sides before we glue it. So I would highly recommend watching Josh Bixler's build series on this, because I'm not covering every single detail, but I am trying to get most of it in the video. Now notice on mine I didn't put the bottom plate on
ahead of time like Josh Bixler did, and that's because I'm doing an FPV build and I want to have this all open for when I do the wiring, whatever it's going to be. I need to add a GPS, for example, so I need to get the wires in there. So I didn't put the bottom plate on, but that can always be added later. Now at this point I think I'm going to turn my attention toward the flight controller and the electronics just to get all of that working before I go ahead and seal up the bottom and all that. I want to make sure that my wiring is all going to fit in there the way I want it. So that's what's coming up next.